Hello, and welcome back. I'm Don Cody, your host. Today, my special guest is Cheryl Meyer. Cheryl was a very successful entrepreneur with a global business until one day she couldn't get out of bed. Her life took a drastic turn, and spoiler alert, the world is better for it. Get ready to take some notes because you're going to want to write down and apply what Cheryl has to share with you today. And with that, let me introduce you to Cheryl Meyer. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm Don Cody, your host, and I am here with Cheryl Meyer today. Cheryl and I just got introduced recently, but I love her story, and I'm going to have her tell you her story in just a moment. I know you're going to love it just like I do, but I just first want to welcome her. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Very, very nice. So listen, Cheryl, you are in a beautiful part of the world. You're in Arizona, but tell us a little bit about your background, like how you ended up in Arizona, how you ended up doing what you're doing today. So give us kind of the stepping stones.
Okay, well, I was a jeweler. I finally jumped off the cliff and opened up my own business. And I was determined. I had always had male partners, but I did all the work. So this time was for me, and I was determined it was going to be super, super successful. So I was working round the clock, and I was designing in Los Angeles and manufacturing all over Asia. One year I went 13 times to Asia in 1 year, but all my customers were the big box people, the Kohl's and the Macy's and JC Penney's. So I'd come back from Asia, get on a plane and go to the East Coast, sometimes return the same day because I wanted to see the customer. So I was working like a crazy person, and I was doing everything to make my business successful, which it was, except eat, take care of me. And my body started yelling at me, and I wasn't paying any attention. I was eating as fast as I was working all day when I got home, and I was eating on the fly. I was not eating good quality food. I wasn't exercising regularly or doing any of my other now healthy habits. And it went through my head so fast that I didn't even stop to think about the fact that my body was really complaining.
Wow.
And I have a joke. When my angels want me to get something first, they poke me in the arm, then I get the NCIS slap, and finally the 2x4 comes down. Well, the 2x4 came down.
Ouch.
I woke up one morning and I literally couldn't get out of bed because I had so much pain. Every joint and every muscle in my body hurt. I had no idea what was wrong, and I couldn't imagine it was the flu because it was way worse than any flu. But I finally went to the doctor 5 times and ran tests, and she came back and said, "Good news, there's nothing wrong with you." And I said, "That's absolutely ludicrous because I cannot function."
Wow.
So I was really lucky. I had an extremely well-trained, very loyal staff. I turned the business over to them, and I started researching, having no idea what I was looking for, since obviously neither did my doctor. And I was lucky because I tripped into something called the functional medical community, which was relatively new back in 2011, 2012 when this all happened to me. And they were running 19 different symposiums with maybe 20 doctors each talking about their story. And they caught my attention because they either had a loved one get sick who they couldn't help, so they went for the additional training of functional, or they got sick themselves and couldn't help themselves, so they became functional doctors. And the big difference is a conventional doctor will pinpoint one problem area in your body, and they listen for the first symptom you give them, and down the chute comes the pill. Well, a functional doctor doesn't do any of that. They look at the whole body.
Wow.
And they know how all the puzzle pieces impact each other. And so I listened to all 20 summits with all these doctors and made notes. And I wrote down the threads that ran between them. And then I knew that was where I was going to start my research. I knew that I probably should be eating real food. That was like a no-brainer. So when they started talking about eating real food, and one woman caught my attention because she wanted me to eat the rainbow. And I was famous for making rainbow jewelry. Everybody
Oh,
else was doing diamonds and CZ, not me. I was doing all multicolor rainbow pieces, which is what made me different, but I loved color. So I knew I was going to start to research, why should I be eating the rainbow? I wrote down the toxic load because several of them talked about toxic load. And I knew that I learned that EWG.org, which everyone should write down because it's an incredible resource, was where I could look up how many toxins were in like all the products in my home. And I knew I had a real problem with stress because my cortisol had been up and been so used up that I was on the border of Addison's disease, and I caught it just in time. So those were the three areas that I started in researching to try to figure out how to return to wellness. So I immediately started. I was lucky I had a mother who cooked, so I started buying real food and cooking for myself, and only eating real food. I started looking up every single product in my house, ingredient by ingredient. And if it had toxic things in it, I looked for replacements, which in 2011 were far and few between, but there were some. So I made a list of what I had been using and what I replaced it with. And in the end, I replaced hundreds and hundreds of items and ingredients.
amazing.
And I really started getting angry. Why was my government allowing me to be poisoned?
Yeah.
And then I ran across a guy on one of the summits who said, we're all armies of one. So you're responsible for what you put in your body.
Mm.
So just to own it, find it, get rid of it, and move on. So then I started learning about all the toxins sprayed on our food. And it's really enough to turn you gray when you realize what they're doing to our conventional crops. So I started looking for organic food. I was really lucky because when I got sick, I grew up and was living in California, and they grow 75, 80% of the food for the country.
Right.
So I had remarkable farmers markets, and I was learning things like you wanted to buy it almost right as soon as it was harvested because it loses as much as 30% of its goodies within a couple of days of harvest. So I was looking for really fresh food. And if I had to, I would go to the grocer. But if I could buy directly from the farmer, that was even better. So, and then I
Can you
started
tell
doing
us just a
yoga.
little bit about how
And I
Tao?
picked a Tao yoga place so that it was close to me and they weren't making me tie myself into a pretzel, which I wasn't going to be able to do anyway.
Is different because I'm not sure I even understand that.
Tao is very mindset oriented.
Okay.
And it's related sort of to the whole Buddha philosophy, although they have their own masters, and it's very calming and it's isometric. And as I said, we weren't standing like a tree endlessly. We were doing things that were light movement, kind of like Tai Chi, but
I
not
was going
Tai
to say,
Chi.
it sounds like Tai Chi. Yeah.
And one of the things I hated in the beginning, they had a wooden pillow that they wanted us to stand on or put under our neck. And it hurt like I couldn't believe. But I got to the point where I really loved it because it released all the tension in my feet or in my neck. So I would release all the tension up and then all the tension down. I'd been in a long-term relationship with someone when I got sick. And when I went to talk to him, he refused to change. He was not going to change how we ate. We literally ate our way through Pasadena, which is one of the big cities in Los Angeles, but we weren't eating good food. We were eating rich food that was loaded with chemicals, and he wasn't going to change. So we broke up. So in addition to everything else, I had all the stress from
Oh
that.
my goodness.
So I took a course from a woman I heard on the radio named Allison Armstrong, who caught my attention because she said she kept kissing princes and turning them into frogs. And I decided I needed to figure out what I was doing wrong in my relationship. So I took a 2-weekend course. And when I walked in, she said, I know exactly what's wrong. She said, you're fitting into their life. You're not doing your non-negotiable list so that he fits into yours. So she said, when you go home after this weekend, you make your non-negotiable list and we'll go over it next weekend. So I had my non-negotiable list And I went on the old fogey dating site looking for someone to go on a get well journey with me. Well,
Okay.
somebody answered in 3 days and lived 10 minutes away from me with a national site. And so
Wow.
he had just lost his wife to 43 years, his soulmate, to cancer. And his response was, I really need to go on a get well journey because I really need to lose weight. I've been her caretaker for the last 5 years. So if nothing else, we should start cooking together. We'll start walking together and we'll see what happens from there. He wasn't ready for a relationship. But the last thing he said when I first met him is, if you give me a chance, I'm probably the nicest guy you ever met. Well, it ended up he was. And 3 years later, I married him. And so he is now my husband for 10 years. But we went on the get well journey together. And he loved to cook and I loved to cook, which really made it easier. Our houses were really close together. So it wasn't hard to get together to go on this get well journey. And I was researching like crazy because I was not going to live a life of pain and pills. I just was not. And so, and as I implemented, he implemented, and it took about a month before we felt any change at all.
Interesting.
But over the first 5 years, I eliminated all the toxins. We completely changed how we ate to only eating organic, clean, real food. We eliminated all processed food. That was an incredible rush. And we both started losing weight like crazy. Over the 5 years, I lost probably 60 pounds without dieting, just by changing my lifestyle.
Wow.
And of course, taking care of the stress was huge as well, because stress interrupts absolutely everything that goes on in your body, and it makes you fat, and it makes the cortisol go wild, which then eliminates the possibility for you to lose the weight. I had a library of New York Times bestseller books on how to lose weight that could have been something that would make anybody jealous, and none of it worked for me. I would start to lose weight. I would fall off the horse, and then I would gain that back plus another 5 pounds. Well, eating real food, I just started dropping weight. And today I've now lost 80 pounds. And I teach people how to break the addiction to sugar and to all the chemicals that are in that food, which is, they're all toxins as well. And you think you're getting stuff that's real because it tastes real, looks real, acts real, sounds real. They have hired scientists to make it all appear as if it's good for you, only there's nothing in it that your body can function on. So the body says, hey, yikes, I'm still hungry because I'm not getting any nutrition from what you're feeding me. And so it keeps screaming at you. And then I discovered I had 2 hormones I didn't know anything about called ghrelin and leptin. So that I'd eat a huge Thanksgiving dinner and I'd be in the kitchen picking on the pumpkin pie going, how could I possibly still be hungry? Well, ghrelin and leptin are what sends the signal to your brain to stop eating that you're full. So when you stop eating all the chemicals, which tack down all of that, then that starts to work and you're not hungry all the time. When you get rid of the sugar, which is addictive, it's more addictive than cocaine. So you really don't want to be eating a large amount of it. All of that turns off not only your ghrelin and your leptin, but all your happy hormones. So, I mean, I had a joke that if I ever wanted to commit suicide, I was going to do it by M&M. I can't even eat an M&M today. It's like, bleh.
Suicide by M&M.
Because all of that, you start to brain all the good stuff and you feel so fantastic. And that's the whole key. I have 20 health lifestyle habits. You cannot do them all at the same time, but you start with food because I consider that foundational for wellness.
Sure.
And then you go to stress because you have to get rid of the stress or you can't heal your body. So you start with those and then you start with the toxins so that you lower your toxic load so that your body can start to function the way it was designed to function so that all the nutrition starts getting all over your body and it goes to your mitochondria, which are your little battery packs and all your cells. Once you reach the point where you start feeling really good And my first book is called It Feels Good to Feel Good. When you get to that point, it's not hard to maintain it anymore because you're not willing to give it up.
Right.
So I tell you that because I want everybody to hear me in the beginning. Yep, you want to eat that chocolate cake that everybody else is eating. But it doesn't take very long when you know how lousy you're going to feel if you eat that
Right.
chocolate cake. So it's not worth it anymore. And I now have learned to cook where I can eat almost anything I used to eat, only now I make it with clean, healthy ingredients.
Oh my goodness.
And so it's not the same thing, but it's really delicious. I love to have people over to my house for dinner because they'll get up and go, wow, this was healthy. Because it is easily as delicious, if not more delicious, than all that, I call it crap, carbonated, artificial, refined, and processed food, which is all the processed food.
What a great acronym.
You think it's faster to eat processed food and fast food.
Yeah,
it's not. I can put a really terrific meal on the table in a half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And as Julia Child said, you don't have to be a French chef to make good, clean, delicious food. So it's getting people to put the effort in cooking again. But I can cook a meal as fast as I can get in the car and go to find fast food,
Right.
which here it's not so close anymore. But John and I eventually have moved to Sedona, Arizona, which is one of the most spectacular places on the planet. And so
And the energy is pretty amazing too.
He got really involved with the Tao group that we were doing the yoga with.
Oh, okay.
And it's a master for them. So when he sold his house, because we didn't need two houses 10 minutes apart, we bought a house in the village of Oak Creek, Sedona. And then eventually the drive was 8 hours back and forth. And he said, Ark, we need to decide which end we're going to live at. So we sold my house in California and moved here permanently. We're now on top of a mountain overlooking wild U.S. forestry property.
Wow, spectacular.
50 minutes south of Sedona, which is a huge advantage because they get 10 million visitors a year, and we're not in that. Right. But we have all of the beauty and red rocks and the spectacular part of Sedona within a skip and a jump. And we get into Sedona on a back road that takes us 15 minutes. So it's really spectacular here. I'm a city girl. I've never lived in the country. This is country, and that has its own advantages too. We have a courtyard outside my office. I looked out in my courtyard one morning, and I had a fox playing in my flower garden out there. He'd gone over the wall. And 3 days later, I had a roadrunner who came and put his beak on my window and said hello until my cat went into the window to throw him off. But there's all kinds of wildlife here. Yeah. And it's really spectacular here. And although we're in desert, we're in high desert, we're at 4,000 feet. What's funny about this area of Arizona is I call it my bushy desert, but there are stripes of green all over my bushy desert, which is where Oak Creek runs. And so there is water. So there is some farming. It's taken me a while to find my farms so I can get my just picked produce, but they are here. And it's just, there's fishing, there's all kinds of ranches. And now I can get my cow directly from the rancher that's grass-fed, grass-finished, because you don't want the chemicals that are in your meat either. I get free-run chicken who gets to eat grass and bugs and flowers and sticks. I got to eat free-run turkey, which was unbelievably delicious for Thanksgiving.
Really hard to find.
Have some heritage, just eat good things and roam like they want to. So it's all here. It's taken me a while to search it out. But what I feed my body is non-negotiable. So, and the Cheryl, other lovely thing about Sedona is we have 16 restaurants.
Yeah, yes, in Sedona,
but
for
in
sure.
addition to that, so first I did food, then I did stress, then I eliminated every toxin I could find and exchanged it for something that wasn't toxic. And things like your perfume are poisoning you. Those commercials where they have laundry detergent and they're smelling it and going wild, they're poisoning themselves every time they smell that stuff. The most poisonous thing in your house are your soap pods that you use in your dishwasher and your laundry. If a toddler was to eat that, you probably can't even get into emergency. I was shocked at how many toxins and how severely toxic they were. And I'm a kid who grew up with allergies. We moved out of Pittsburgh because my dad didn't think I was going to survive because of all the coal and the steel dust there. So all my life I've had allergies. No more allergies because it
No
all
more
went away with
allergies.
the toxins. So as you go through changes on your wellness journey and you start to feel fantastic, that's when you know you're doing the right thing. And I have a conversation with my body every single morning. I say, "Good morning, Cheryl. How are you?" And I tell myself I love me because that took some work because I wasn't important enough to myself that got me into that mess in the first place. And then the next question I ask is, "How do you feel today?" And I get quiet and I listen because something that I've learned is my body is unbelievably smart and it speaks in symptoms, but if I listen to it, it has a whole lot to say. So if it has any complaints in the morning, I react immediately because I'm not going back. And so that's one of my guiding forces. Um, and my feet hit the ground happy now. I am like unbelievably happy from the very beginning. And John and I run up and down the aisle. His office is at one end and mine's at the other to share what I call glimmers, which are all the little moments that I used to miss that bring a smile or joy into my life. And the key is to not miss them, to acknowledge them, to sit with them and feel the glow. And that just keeps feeding the love that you have for the world, the gratitude that you have, that you feel as fantastic as you do, and all the other things you start to pull into your life. You want to make sure you don't miss a single one of those glimmers because they make a huge difference to the quality of your life.
So Cheryl, you've done a great job of being able to share and pack in so much great information. You've proven to me, and I'm sure all of our audience, that you're really an expert in all these areas. But I noticed something in this conversation here, because we had a couple of conversations before, but in this particular conversation, there's an overarching philosophy that you have. And so my question is, I know you've got several books, and I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about it. You've got a great workshop that you do and some other things, but is there some place that someone could learn about your overarching philosophy? Because I feel like that's where it's all got to start. You've got to adopt that philosophy.
When I returned to wellness, I decided I was having conversations with people everywhere I went because I was excited. Because
Yeah, of
who
course.
knew that I could heal myself so much? And so I was talking to people at the grocery store who were trying to pick out bread and talking to people at the dental office. And I decided I was going to sell my jewelry business, which I did. And I went back to school at 67 so that I could get certified as a health coach. And I didn't really think I needed to get the professional knowledge because I had done so much research and kept it all organized in file folders. But I wanted people to believe that I knew what I was talking about because I was swimming upstream against what was conventional knowledge.
Mm.
And when I graduated from coaching school, they asked me if I wanted to write a book. And I said, I'm all ready to go. I have everything organized in file folders. My first book won 17 awards because it is a
Wow.
layman. It's a layman's point of view of what I did. And I go step by step on how I came to find the categories I was going to look into and what I did category by category to clean it up so that I could return to wellness. 5 years into it, I started feeling much better. And I finally found my own functional doctor. There were only 3 in Los Angeles at the time.
Oh my goodness.
I must have called 50 of them, making sure that they practice root cause medicine, which is what a functional doctor does. And I ended up driving an hour to see her, but she took
Forgive
me
me
the rest
for
of the
interrupting,
way.
but I want to forgive me for interrupting, but I want to make sure that we have on in this meeting that we have the timeline. You were what age when you drew a line in the sand and said, "No more. I'm going to find out how to fix me"? How old were you?
I was 63 when I couldn't get out of bed anymore.
Okay, so let's
In
just
all
stop there.
honesty,
Let's just stop there for 1 second. So my audience is seniors. We're going to say 55 plus. So you are already far beyond 55 plus.
I was
So
already
you
a
are
senior.
already right. So I want to make sure that all the audience recognizes that, everybody, look how much energy she has, how excited, how enthusiastic she is, and she keeps getting better, right? And so that's really what I want everybody to understand. It doesn't matter whether you're 55, 65, 75, even 85. There's always plenty of room
And
for improvement.
lifestyle habits work.
Yep.
Um, People my age seem to think that you're supposed to get sick and that you're supposed to have a life
Right.
of pain and pills. You
Right. I
don't have
don't
to have a life of pain and pills. I have no pain anymore. I went from not being able to function to being completely pain-free.
amazing.
And it's because I changed my lifestyle. Somebody who comes to Sedona all the time is a guy named Dr. Bruce Lipton. And he is
Sure.
known as the father of epigenetics, which is now considered to be fact. What he discovered was genetics is not what determines what we get. It is a blueprint of what we've inherited that we could get, but what determines what we get are your lifestyle habits. It's the
Absolutely.
environment that the cell is in. And so when you understand that, it changes everything. Now, do I take pills? I do take some because pills will mitigate what's still wrong while you're fixing it. So I tell people, yeah, go ahead. If you can only find a conventional doctor, take the pill, but negotiate with them that number one, you're responsible for your health. You're going to listen to your body, and your body's going to tell you what to do and what not to do. But you will take the pill because you want to mitigate whatever's wrong until your lifestyle habits catch up with you and can start to fix it. And then you get a guarantee from them that they'll help you get back off of it. And every single drug that they're going to give you has a good side and a bad side. They will fix one thing while they're throwing something else off. So you have to pay attention to that. There's a great book I found from a pharmacist who became holistic named Susie Cohen, and it's called Drug Muggers. And when I got sick, so that, I had fibromyalgia, Hashimoto's, a fatty liver, and type 2 diabetes, and I was 80
Oh
pounds
my God.
heavier. All of that is pretty much gone. The fatty
Wow.
liver was the last of the Mohicans. But I still consider that I have autoimmune disease because something went wrong in my body, and I'm not going to trigger it again. But I don't have any of the symptoms of any of those diseases anymore. And my blood sugar has come back to normal. And when I got sick, they told you if you had diabetes, you were always going to have diabetes. You weren't going to get well. Don't believe them. You can impact all aspects of your body if you clean up your lifestyle. But you have to be diligent about it. And people will tell you, oh, you don't have to be that good. You can do the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time you're good, 20% of the time you're bad. It's not worth it for me to be the 20% bad because I feel it immediately and my body yells at me. And it's not that hard to eat 100% good because I eat really delicious, fantastic food.
And do you want to be
I
healthy 80% of the time or 100% of the time, right?
I'm 100%er.
Yeah, for sure.
It's non-negotiable for me. So
you told us about your book. If someone got your book, they would have the blueprint to change their life like you did.
They have the beginning blueprint.
Yep, is the beginning blueprint. That's where I'm going. So what else would you recommend that they do?
My second book was, okay, now I've impacted my wellness. How do I live with the public this way? How do I go out with my friends when I eat different than? And I was swimming upstream against them all. So my functional doctor asked me to write the second book because she said her patients weren't understanding where to go from there. So my second book talks about how do I vet a restaurant. I know the chef before I ever walk into a restaurant. And we have a conversation about, can he feed me? And what can he feed me? So by the time I arrive, he comes out to shake my hand because I'm kind of a fascinating creature to him that I've cared so much that I've negotiated what I'm going to eat. And I might take what he has and take all the vegetables off of all his entrees so that I don't have to eat meat that wasn't raised as clean as I want, but at least I can get all the vegetables, whether they have the stuff on them or not. It's much safer for me to eat a whole plate full of vegetables than it is for me to eat some other thing. So I negotiate with him and I know what I'm going to eat when I walk in. Sometimes they even make special things for me. When we went to France, I have 19 food sensitivities. That was something that I learned when I went finally to a functional doctor. Foods that trigger me that I had no idea were causing inflammation. And all chronic ailments, by the way, are caused by inflammation, which is your body's response to something going haywire in your body. And it starts in your gut. If you're eating foods that you don't agree with, you can't digest them properly. If you are eating all that crap, the carbonated artificial processed stuff, it goes into your gut and your gut doesn't know what to do with it. So it cannot digest it. So there's something called leaky gut. Whoa, that was a big question on my things I had to track down. And what leaky gut is you don't get your food down to the right particle side. So other food goes in, it wants to go out. So it starts poking up against the lining of your stomach, which is as thin as tissue paper. It's one cell thick. That blew me away. So it's poking up against this one cell thick wall and it pokes a hole, leaky gut. And then that food particle goes into your blood and your body does exactly what it's supposed to. It screams foreigner because it doesn't know what it is because it's at the wrong side and it's not down to the essential nutrients and the other things that your blood would recognize. And then your body does something really bizarre with it. It finds something in your body that it reminds you of. For me, it was my muscles and my joints. And your body attacks it because there's a foreigner in your blood that it wants to get rid of. Now, it was my thyroid and it was my muscles and my joints, which were the two autoimmune diseases that I got. It could be your brain and give you dementia. It could be your lower gut and give you something called IBS, which is inflammatory bowel disease. It could be your skin and be eczema or psoriasis. All parts of your body can be impacted by something that's autoimmune. And if it's not autoimmune, it's what causes cancer as well and heart disease. It creates inflammation when it starts to attack your body, and inflammation turns into one of the chronic illnesses. So if you eliminate the triggers of the inflammation, you start to heal your body from the inside out. I also just learned what the mechanism is. There's something in food that was really relatively new 13 years ago when I started studying all this called phytonutrients. And they weren't as important as your minerals and your vitamins in their mind back then, but they're in the plant for the plant. They weren't put in the plant for us. They will keep the deer from eating it or do other things that are good for the plant. Well, they're all the colors of the rainbow, which is why I believe in that. And each color is a different gift for the body because of the phytonutrients that are in it. And when you eat all the colors, something amazing happens where they party in your body and create health. You need all of them. And then the magic begins to happen. At first, they knew about 5,000 when I started researching. Then it was 10. Now it's over 100,000 phytonutrients.
Wow.
And there are phytonutrients that can attack specific kinds of cancer cells. So they help your body function and heal. And they're what turns your mitochondria, those little battery packs in your cells on. They do all, and they give you energy, they give you brain power, they give you creativity. And since our kids are not eating the right food, we really are robbing them of their future because they're not getting any of those things and they need them like blood. So you don't want them eating Halloween candy. You want them eating all of the colors of the rainbow. You want to have them help
not
you.
Skittles, right? And not Skittles, the colors of the rainbow.
No, I'm not talking Skittles. And food dyes, by the way, are
that's all
the world.
That's all the colors of the rainbow, just the wrong kind.
Yeah, no, a real whole food.
Right.
And
right.
that's
the
where the magic
ingredient foods. My wife and I are really big on single ingredient foods.
But the other thing that happens is that's where all your good vitamins come from. And if you're eating the synthetic vitamins in the crappy food, they don't know what to do with each other because they don't have the synergy that happens when you're getting them from real food. So if you're getting your vitamins and your minerals and your phytonutrients from real food, then what happens is your gut now breaks that down. You're getting fiber in the real food. They've removed it all from the processed food. And your gut breaks it down and they jump on that fiber and ride piggyback to your vagal nerve, which is also in your gut, which is the superhighway to the body. And it delivers it to your brain. It turns on all your happy hormones. It delivers it to all your cells and to your mitochondria. And you start to feel, I can almost feel it going through my body and making me feel good. They're that important. And so that's what will give you energy, brain power, happiness. There are so many benefits from eating this way that it's really kind of amazing. So you want your body to eat what it was put on this earth to eat. And in the beginning, I was like, my functional doctors were all talking about it, but there weren't that many of them. And I was out there talking about it all the time. I actually did a post about not letting your kids eat all the Halloween candy and got thrown out of 2 local groups because the mothers felt I was attacking them for being bad mothers.
Wow.
They would write to me that they wanted the longitudinal studies that eating real food was good for you. My husband was a statistician. He used the war because we have 250,000 years of longitudinal studies that eating real food is good for you. But growers of real food don't have the money to run these studies that they're running on all the crappy food to tell you that it's okay for you when it's not.
Right.
And okay, from there, the next book I wrote is a book called It's Not Complicated How to Eat. Because I never really broke it down in my book. I talked about what I was doing and that I was eating the rainbow, but I decided we needed a book that would explain how we got into this mess because everybody's involved in it and we're being gaslit everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
What's in processed food and then what you should eat. And I don't care if you're vegan or paleo, which means you eat quality protein, or if you're vegetarian, or if you're pescatarian, which means you eat vegetables and fish, I don't care. There are rules of how you can put quality food into your body so that you can function. But how we got into this, health insurance is obviously involved in it because they want the money from the health insurance. Big food is involved, big drug is involved, big ag is involved, big media is involved because they get all their money from advertising the other guys. The universities are all involved because they're getting paid to run studies and they're being paid for by big food, big ag, or big pharma. Mm-hmm. So if they start getting results that they don't like, it gets cut off so that you get that it's perfectly okay for you, but that's because they didn't run the study far enough for you to find out how bad it was for you. When I say everybody is involved, everybody's involved on both sides, by the way. Also on the both sides. There's a lot of people who've become very famous about whistleblowing on what's going on, but they also are gaslighting you. And one of them is a very famous woman who I started following in the beginning because she would go after individual ingredients, specifically in fast food, and she'd get the company to remove them. And one day it occurred to me, that leaves all the other bad ingredients in there. So why don't we just tell people to stop eating it and what to eat instead? Or give them charts that show this is what's in it. And if you made it yourself, this is what's in it. And all of this is good for you. And she is very famous and she is still out there doing it and picketing all big food. Baloney. You have to just stop eating it. Your body can't handle it. Your body can't process it, and it doesn't do anything for you. So you just stop. There is one fast food restaurant that if I'm in trouble, I will go to, and that's Chipotle, because they source really carefully.
I see.
And so, and what's funny, we were going to Las Vegas from LA and we stopped in the middle point Chipotle had a parking lot completely full with no parking spots. The other guy, the regular fast food guy, didn't have anybody at it. So people were starting to catch on with what the better choice was, which made me happy.
Yeah.
But there are alternatives and you can figure it out. I talk about it every day on my Facebook page. I'm Cheryl Meyer 3. Follow me there. I give you a recipe every day. What makes my recipes different is I didn't write them because I had all these food sensitivities. So you don't want to know how I make a white sauce out of cashew nuts. You want to know how to cook normal. And so I use somebody else's recipe, but I go through it and tell you how to source it, whether you need to buy it organic or not. It's all the information you need to know about that food in one post so that you can cook it and keep it healthy. So I can take any recipe from anybody and clean it up so that I can eat it. And that's
So
what
Cheryl, we've got 3 books, right? Your first 3 books.
those are great.
Yeah. And so we've also got
I have more than that.
your Facebook page, which people can get to. And by the way, folks, don't worry about writing all this stuff down. I actually have gotten the information from Cheryl, and it's all going to be in the show notes for you. And is there a website that you want them to go to?
Yeah, my website is Cheryl. It didn't show up on here. I put my name in. Cheryl, CHERYLM, like Mary, health, HEALTH, muse, MUSE, because I want to inspire you to clean up because it'll make a big difference in your life. So cherylmhealthmuse, then at gmail.com. If you have a question, you can write me. I will answer you. I do this because I want to get information out. And my website is cherylmhealthmuse.com. I do write blogs. I don't have any recipes on my website, but I do talk about my history, John's history, because he's now a Tao practitioner. And although we learn on different paths, we cross over and teach each other all the time. So there's a lot of information. Magazines that have written articles on me are in there. There's a lot of stuff in there. I have 2 other publications you need to be aware of. I did a whole magazine that I ended up, it was too big for me to publish. And so I put it out as a flip book. So It's Not Complicated book is a flip book. My magazine is a flip book. And it's A to Z on all the different methods of wellness, all the different routes. So my functional doctor wrote an article. My naturopath wrote an article because naturopaths have a different approach. And I believe in going to anybody who's going to give me puzzle pieces. A woman who started a chemo group for cancer because no one should go through cancer alone. It's not about what you decide to do if you get cancer. It's about having a community to support you when you go through cancer. She wrote an article on community. There was a woman with 2 botched back surgeries who was just miserable, who ended up at the Tao group that my husband's part of. And they ended up putting a whole holistic program together and invited people with heart disease and cancer and all different ailments to come take the program. Her comment was her life started with that program, but it also dramatically changed the lives of the other people they invited to come in and do it. And her honey is a documentary filmmaker. They made a film that made it all the way to PBS.
Amazing.
And
amazing.
so,
Cheryl, I hate to interrupt you, but here's the thing. We could talk for days and days, I know. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Would you please come back and tell us some more?
yeah. So look at my magazine. They wrote an article about the holistic journey. I have a toxin expert who wrote 2 articles, and then I wrote a bunch of articles filling in the blanks that you didn't get in my other books. And they're all on Issue, which is a flip book company, and it's noted on the first page of my .com of my website. So you have access to all of this.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to need to wrap it up for right now, but oh my gosh, I could listen to you for days and days and days. So thank you so much for coming on today. Really appreciate it. Folks, all the information is going to be in the show notes that Cheryl had said today. So Cheryl, hang out for me for a minute. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next show. Bye now.